We want to call this meeting to order. This is the Weber County Commission meeting for today, January 18th, 10 o'clock. We welcome you all here today. Our meeting will start this morning with a Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see, I got a new agenda here. Stacy's keen, she's still on it. And invocation by Commissioner Harvey and thought of the day by Commissioner Frohr. Stacy?
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, as we remember Thee and remember our place this morning as we begin our commission meeting, we are grateful for this opportunity, Heavenly Father, to be here and to have this process. Grateful, Father in heaven, for our republic and for democracy. We're grateful, Father in heaven, for the tender mercies that are surrounding us so often. We pray, Father in heaven, for the people of our county, not just for those who are enjoying great things, but for those who are having hard things. Help us to remember our place, Heavenly Father. Help us to remember who we are and that it's the importance of being able to treat others with respect. We're grateful for what we have. We're grateful for family. We're grateful for freedoms, and please bless those who are actively and who have spent so much time in making sure that our freedoms are protected. These things we say in the Savior's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Chair, so yesterday we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is celebrated on the third Monday in January every year. So I thought it'd be appropriate to talk a little bit about Dr. King. Some of us actually grew up in the late 50s and 60s and remember these times. Not very many people in this audience probably, but I know that myself and Commissioner Jenkins were there. So we remember Dr. King's work. He's a Baptist minister, instrumental during that period of time to end racial segregation. And the important part I think we all need to remember, he did that and he based his focus on nonviolent, let me say it again, nonviolent demonstrations. And for those that grew up during that time, we remember that wasn't always the case. There was a lot of violent demonstrations in the southern part of the United States. And he took the opposite approach, which I think can be a lesson to us all, that violence and antagonistic efforts to change is not always the proper way and probably not the best way to make change. He made some changes. He was instrumental in the Voters' Right Act in 1965, signed by President Johnson. He was actually awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in, I believe, 1964 through there. So he's a person that, in my opinion, deserves the national holiday.
Recording in progress.
He's done a significant amount of teaching us all in the United States how to work together in the betterment of our entire country. And I think he's instrumental in doing that. So that's my thought, Mr. Chair.
That's a great thought. Thank you. Very good. Well, with that, we'll go to the consent items. This is the worst part of being the chair. You have to read down through all these consent items and everything that's on the agenda. First item, E1, is a request for approval to ratify warrants 9535 through, or 4935 through 4969, and 464893 through 465022, and 145 and number 145 in the amount of $2,492,951. Request for, number 2 is request for warrants 4970 through 4997 and 465023 through 465177 and 146 through 419 in the amount of $1,607,560. Number 3 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $2,211,765. Number 4 is a request for approval of the ACH payments to the U.S. Bank in the amount of $175,508. Number 5 is a request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 4th of 2021. 2021? Yeah, 2022. Number 6 is a request for approval of new business licenses. Number 7 is approval for the following Weber County Human Resource Policies. Policy 3-400 for Standards of Conduct, 4-100 for Family and Medical Leave Act, 4-300 for Insurance and Retirement Benefits, and 3-300 for Alcohol and Drug Screening, Testing, and Treatment. Number 8, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Michael Palumbo to hold auditions for the Chamber Orchestra of Ogden at the Egyptian Theater Rehearsal Hall. Number 9 is request for approval of changes to the County Policy 12-5 Tax Relief Program Policy. Number 10 is request for approval of changes to the County Policy 9.1 on Travel Policy. Number 11 is request for approval of amendments to the following agreements for indigent defense attorney by and between Weber County and the following: Richard Williams, Carl Anderson, Carolyn Perkins, Gage Crowther, James Vitalik, Jennifer Clark, Kevin Richards. Mary Ann Ellis, Rebecca Voimus, Roger Adams, Adam Hensley, Andrew Hayward, Justin Morrison, Martin Gravis, and Michael Bowes. Very good. Those are the consent items. Commissioners, any questions?
Not for me. None from me, Commissioner.
You know, it was interesting as I went through the bills. Very seldom do we have purchase orders for $2 million.
No, just the first of the year.
Yeah. And you get looking in there, it's mostly the library.
Yeah.
Books. Boy, books and books and books. We were really purchasing. And people wonder why we raised the taxes a little bit for the library this year. This is one of the very main reasons. Ricky, do you want to go ahead and tell us your thought about this?
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chair. For this week, and yes, at the beginning of the year, the purchase order lists are very heavy because of the POs that are opened for the entire year. We issued 111 purchase orders this week, or the past 2 weeks, for $2.2 million. 61% of that relates to the library, to purchase books, ebooks, audiobooks, and audiovisual materials. 9%, or $203,000, was for the roads department to purchase road salt, supplies, and magnesium chloride. 8%, or $172,000, is for the conference center, which will go towards contracted labor, linen service, supplies, and concessions. 6%, or $139,000, is for the health department. That is almost exclusively for the furnishing, furniture and furnishings for the second floor of the annex. And just an interesting PO that you just don't think about at the Golden Spike. They had a PO for $1,200 for Black Widow maintenance. Got to keep those under control out there. As far as warrants, we issued, we have 2 check runs on this one. The first one was for January 11th, 166 warrants for $2.5 million. 3/4 of that amount, or $1.9 million, was the annual premium for our county risk management, our risk insurance. and workers' compensation insurance. 7% or $185,000 is for the health department, and that was a payment towards the construction of the second annex second floor for the health. And then the check run for January 18th, we had 187 warrants for $1.6 million. 58% of that amount, or $940,000, was health insurance for employees and retirees. 7%, or $109,000, is for the jail, and that is to pay for audiovisual equipment at the warehouse, utilities, and building maintenance.
So, you know, our payment to Utah County Indemnity Pool was in there, $1.8 million. That was a big one. We were the only county in the state that had a claim against the earthquake.
Really?
It was on our libraries, and we had all kinds of cracks and different things in there. And our cost to us went up a little because of that. So, anyway.
Good to know.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that. Secondly, I see that there was a dump truck in there for the roads. So, do we still, Sean, maybe you can ask this. Last time I talked to you several months ago, but we at the time had dump trucks that we had ordered in 2020 that hadn't got here yet through 2021. Are they still out today?
No, we did finally receive that dump truck.
We did finally get that. So anyway, our trucks are out in the year to 14-month range right now.
That's the new normal.
That is, yeah. Boy, is that not the case, Commissioner? That seems to be the new normal.
That's it.
It's tough. All right. Well, there we go. Thank you, Ricky. So with that, I'm motion on the consent items.
I'll make that motion that we approve consent items as presented today, Commissioner.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. They've approved unanimously. Very good. First action item today is the request for approval of a resolution. County Commissioners, Weber County appointing trustees to the Green Hill Country Estates Water and Sewer Improvement District. Mrs. Stacy Skeen.
Good morning, Commissioners.
You bet.
Last week, you passed a resolution to change the appointment process for this board from an election process to a commission appointment process. This is a 3-member board, and all 3 terms have expired. So I posted this notice in accordance with the state statute, and I received the applications that you have before you. You're going to choose 3 members, and after you choose those 3 members, then I will put the 3 names in this little jar up here, and then you will choose for the appointments so that they may be staggered. So one appointment will expire in 2023, and the other 2 will expire in 2025.
This is Resolution 02-2022. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, for butting in. Can you read those names to us again, Stacy?
So Leslie Stitt, Jean Brill, Gary Hebert, Jacques Bihar, and Howard Ratcliffe. And I did receive one other application, but it was after the
Closed date.
closing date, so it wasn't accepted.
Very good. So, question to your comment. If we choose to choose somebody to take the short term, we could do that. We don't have to put those names in a jar.
Typically, it's done by lot,
I
so
know.
you draw.
Do we
That would
have
be
to
an
do
attorney
that?
question.
So if you wanted to appoint somebody specifically, the state statute allows the county commission to either appoint or done by election. And if the resolution last week was done to allow the commissioners to appoint, did it specify the method for doing that
I don't.
in the resolution?
I don't know that it did.
We'd have to review the resolution and see if it specified a method for doing that.
No problem.
Well,
Drawn out.
I just wanted you to know you had another choice if you wanted, but it sounds like maybe we don't. All right, Commissioners, would one of you care to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd be happy to make a motion when you're ready.
I'm ready.
So before I make that motion, I would say that, we received a letter, a month or so ago that current trustees were not following state statute because of the appointment process or the election process. So this came to us by way of state statute, the way I understand it, Council, that the authorization, or actually the requirement that this board be picked comes to us because the election process for these trustees was not followed. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on the record for that. And I can say without question, Mr. Chair, that this is probably the largest number of emails, phone calls that I've received on any particular board in my history, whether it be state or county government. And as far as I'm concerned, the election through those comments and emails has been taken. And so therefore, I'm prepared to make a motion that we appoint Ms. Leslie Stitt, Ms. Jean Brill, and Gary Hebert as the functioning board of the Green Hills Country Estates Resolution 02-2022.
Very good. I have a motion.
Second with comment.
Yeah.
I just appreciate those in the Green Hills subdivision who actively care about this. Boy, they have loud and clear, not to say that we don't get interest from other places, but it's very clear that these are the three that they want to represent them at the time.
Agreed.
Well, I'll agree with that. The response was overwhelming from those folks, and like you say, we've heard it.
Yep.
So I have a motion and a second. Let's call it. All in favor,
Oh,
say
hold
aye.
on, bud.
Uh-huh. Oh, this is a resolution. So Craig, do you want to call that?
Well, do you
Absolutely.
want to draw for the terms
Yeah,
first?
let's do that.
Let's do the appointment
Sorry.
first,
Okay.
and then we'll do it. Go ahead.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 02-2022. Commissioner Faur,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. All right. Go ahead, bring it up here. We'll have one of these guys do it.
That's the chair.
Oh, the chair.
Sure doesn't.
What? We just sit back and watch.
You did.
Chairs just
Drawing
wonderful.
for the 2020, for the one,
So
Yeah.
two-year term.
this is the 2 years?
This is
This is the
2023.
two-year term.
That would be Leslie Stitt.
Leslie Stitt, 2023.
Yep, so Leslie will be on the short term. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate that, and I know there's those here that were interested in it, so we appreciate you coming. All right, number 2, F2, request for approval of a resolution 03-2022 of the County of Weber County appointing trustees to the board of the Western Weber Park District. Mrs. Skeen.
Okay, so there were three terms that are vacant on this park district. I posted the notice and I received 2 applications that you have before you. And then I have reposted the vacancy for the one remaining. And those applications are due at the end of this week. So right now you can approve the 2 names, and then I'll bring the other resolution before you in a week or so.
Very good. And who are those 2 names?
Kathleen Bernew, she's currently serving, and then Lance Peterson.
Right. And I know both of them. I have no issues with that. Comments, Commissioner?
No.
All right.
Commissioner,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, sorry. If you're looking for a motion,
I am.
I'll make a motion for Resolution 03-2022 to appoint Kathleen Vernew, appointment term expiration December 31st, 2025, and Mr. Lance Peterson for a term expiration of December 31st, 2025.
Very good. I have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. Mr. Brandt, do you want to call that?
Sure. Roll call vote for Resolution 03-2022, Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. Next up is a resolution 04-2022. Approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners, Weber County, appointing members to the Weber County Weed Control Board. Mrs. Skeen.
Okay, there are 2 positions that have expired, and then one position is a midterm vacancy. Daryl Polson needed to resign for personal reasons. So his term expires 2023, December 31st. The other 2 expired December of 2025. So I received 3 applications, Tom Favero, Kara Warren, and Bren Edwards. One of the positions would need to be appointed as the farmer or rancher whose primary source of income is derived from production agriculture, which Tom Favero would fulfill that requirement. You can make these appointments as you wish. The farmer rancher, as stated on the resolution, does not need to expire in 2023. It can expire in any of those terms.
So we have 3 positions that are open and 3 applications.
Correct.
Very good. Commissioners, any question? All right.
Looking for a motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion.
Appreciate the work that Commissioner Floor's done on this, getting this established again. We're making progress. Really appreciate that. If it's okay, I'll make a motion that we
Ahead.
approve resolution number 04-2022, appointing Kara Warren to a term expiring December 31st, 2023. Mr. Brent Edwards to expire a term December 31st, 2025, and then that position as farmer rancher Tom Favero to a term to expire December 31st, 2025.
Very good. So that's a motion.
And I'd second that with a comment.
Yes, please.
And so these are people that, with the exception of Mr. Brent Edwards, who has attended, I believe, 1 or 2 of our meetings. So he'll be a great addition to the Weed Control Board. As Commissioner Harvey indicated, we are making some good progress. It's a matter of education is what we're striving for. But it's something that's very important to this county as we look at the control of noxious weeds. So I fully support that motion.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Do you want to call that, Greg?
Okay, roll call vote for resolution 04-2022, Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Thank you. Well, we have lots of resolutions today, don't we? Next one up is a request for approval of resolution 05-2022 of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Weber County Tourism Tax Advisory Board. Mrs. Skeen.
All right. This one is not through the application process. At the last TTAB board, the board members recommended that Kim Bouchard, Todd Ferrario, Will Schaefer, and Spencer Story continue serving, and they have all agreed, and then that Marty Smith continue as an ex officio member of the TTAB board. So they're just looking for your approval.
Very good. I don't have any issues with any of those people out there. Either of you?
No.
No.
You want to go ahead and make a motion, somebody?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve resolution 05-2022, appointing those members to the Weber County Tourism Tax Advisory Board, Kim Bouchard, Todd Ferrario, Will Schaefer, and Spencer Story.
Very good. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Mr. Brandt, you want to call that?
Roll call vote for resolution 05-2022, Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stace. Mrs. Skeen. Request for approval of a resolution 06-2022 for the County Commissioners of Weber County making an appointment to the Weber Area Dispatch 911 Emergency Services District Board. Let's see, and I've got a deal in here saying who it is. Rich Sorensen.
Richard Sorensen, new mayor of Huntsville.
Right, new mayor of Huntsville, and he was appointed through WACOG, recommended through WACOG. I don't have any issues there, do either of you?
No, I think he'd be a great board
Yeah,
member.
I do too. Gage, do you want to make that motion?
Sure, I would move to approve Resolution 06-2022, appointing the new mayor, Richard Sorensen of Huntsville, to the 911 board, as recommended by WACOG.
Second?
Very good, we have a motion and a second. Craig?
Roll call vote for Resolution 06-2022. Commissioner Faur,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. Next one is a request for approval of a resolution of the Weber County Commissioners appointing one member of the Weber County Planning Commission to the Weber County Planning Commission of West Weber. Rick Grover. Go ahead, Rick.
Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner Bell on the Planning Commission has some previous conflicts, so his vacancy is up. There's 3 names for you to consider. Casey Novell, Cammie Jo Klontz, and James Lance Peterson for your consideration.
Thank you. You know, we didn't really have a chance to talk about this before this. I'm sorry, I should have done that. But, you know, I called and talked to Cammie about this a little. She's a realtor, understanding zoning very well, and I think she'd fit right in. She's my recommendation, but I didn't do any more than that. Would you guys care to make comments to that?
I haven't. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I haven't had the opportunity to speak to any of these people about the appointment, but I have heard several people outside in the community that have indicated support for Ms. Klontz, so.
I normally, I don't have any comments for this.
I'd make that recommendation then.
Do you need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd move on Resolution 07-2022 for the appointment of the Western Weber County Planning Commission, that member become Cammie Jo Klontz.
I'll second that.
And I have a second. Very good. Mr. Brandt, what do you call that?
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 07-2022. Commissioner Faur,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Thank you, Rick. Next up is a request for approval to add a possible community block grant project to the Weber County Capital Improvement for 2022 through 2027. Chad Meyerhofer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, what you have before you is just part of the process of the Community Development Block Grant Program for any of those nonprofit agencies that are requesting the county to sponsor them, is for us to go through and add them to our capital needs through, from 2022 to 2027. So the Weber Housing Authority, as you know, did come to the public hearing that we did have, and they do have a project that they're looking at applying for funds. So this process would just be to possibly add them to our capital improvement plan for the county. So I'm going to just go through and read through what their project is, if you're not familiar with it. But the Weber Human Services and the Weber Housing Authority are partnering to develop a recovery community for substance use dependent individuals in Weber County. The project will allow households to progress towards recovery in a safe, affordable environment conducive to long-term treatment. The partnership in this process of acquiring a small charter school in Pleasant View, Utah for the project, CDBG funding will be used for the remodel of the newly acquired facility and will assist in turning classrooms from the charter school into individual affordable apartments for households with substance use disorders. As well as adding this, some of the additional needs that we always keep open-minded so that we can apply for funding would be, as stated in the Weber County's original consolidated plan, capital improvement plan. Weber County Communities continues to support nonprofit agencies, and ADA standards are always evolving and continually rehabilitating of facilities may be necessary to keep facilities compliant with new standards. Weber County will strive to stay ADA compliant with ADA upgrades project as may be required, and infrastructure upgrades, pedestrian facilities near and around schools for pedestrian safety and for non-motorized transportation needs, upgrades to water systems within county parks to ensure safe drinking water, and possible sewer projects. Weber County also looks to have stormwater flood control is always a critical need, and because of the nature of floods, the location of flooding is not always predictable, and a specific project solution is not known. And we also look to implement a program to assist low-income families and or families at risk. So if you have any questions, Commissioners, I'd like to
I think not. For me, I've been out and walked through the project. It's a lofty goal to convert this building, very expensive. But boy, it's a tremendous building. Commissioner? Question? Commissioner Ford?
No, I think if they can fit in with a budget, it probably makes sense, but it's a big project.
It is a big one. Very good. Then I'm ready for a motion. Whoever.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the CBG, the Community Block Grant Project as presented by Mr. Meyerhofer.
Second?
And a second. So this is for the Weber Housing Authorities, right?
Yep.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thanks,
Thanks,
Chad. We
Commissioner.
appreciate you presenting that. Number 8, under action items, a request for approval of an interlocal agreement by between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for the use of a city vehicle for the law enforcement. Tyler Greenhoff. Nobody's here. You aware of anything under this, Commissioner Ford?
I'm not actually.
This is your portfolio.
This is part of the VIPS program, but
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, if nobody's here to present it, we'll move on. Okay?
Move, do we hold it, if you would like
Yeah,
that?
I don't think there's a need for a motion.
Okay,
We'll
very
just
good.
pass it. Okay, number 9, request for approval on interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for the use and placement of flock safety cameras on Washington Terrace City property. Colby Ryan. Don't see anybody here for that.
It's in the Sheriff's Department today.
Yeah, Sheriff's a little lacking today. Mike, what's the problem?
I'm here, that's all.
Okay, that is true, you are here.
That's what matters.
Okay, we'll go to the next one, number 10. Request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Tony Gruber to have the Gruber Family Band perform for the Hoff German Fest of 2022. Duncan, here you go.
Good morning, Commissioners.
I'm surprised to see you here where it's over the convention center now.
Yeah, we've moved it down to the conference center, but some of my staff, we've been helping go through the process and pushing it over there. We're really excited to have the Gruber family back. They're one of the crowd favorites. They do a great job entertaining the school district kids that come during lunch, and it's our pretty standard contract with them. Their prices have gone up a little bit because of flights and everything, but they're one of our favorites, and we're excited to have them back this Friday and Saturday at the conference center.
Very good. Questions, Commissioners?
No questions.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, this is in your portfolio.
Motion to approve the contract between Weber County and Antonia Gruber for the Hof German Fest.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's approved.
Awesome.
Item 11, request for approval of contract by between Weber County and the Salzburg Echo for entertainment at the Hof German Fest 2022. Duncan, go ahead.
So this is our other heavy hitter. The Salzburger Echo is one of our favorites. They bring the Alpenhorns, they bring the bells, they bring the entertainment. And so we're excited that Tony and his band is willing to come back and be a part of this year's German Fest. Same price as we've done in the past. And so we're excited to have them back.
Great. Commissioner Harvey?
I just, this is a great band, and Tony Brazelton and his group there, they've done a wonderful job and continue to. If for those people that may listen now or later, this is worth going to the Hofest just to see these two bands. They're like a little concert on each one. Their sets are about an hour apiece, and really great entertainment, and the food's phenomenal there. So look forward to that. If you're ready, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion
Great, go ahead.
to approve the contract between Weber County and Salzburger Echo for entertainment at the 2022 Hof German Fest.
And I'm happy to second that.
We get a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So this is this is very authentic, real German music. And
Yeah.
of course, that's what people want to hear. That's why they come to it.
Yeah, these are definitely our two heavy hitters. We've got two other contracts that we've had to go back and forth. Liam's helped us straighten a few things out to make sure we were on the up and up.
Right.
And so they'll end up coming in front of you next week, and that's the Park City Polka Players and Carrie Christensen. They are more of our filler acts that will fit in between these two heavy hitters. So just a
Very
heads
good.
up.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, we have, let's see, got to go to the new agenda today. I need now a motion to adjourn this meeting and go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We're now in a public hearing. Purpose of this public hearing is to consider and take action on requests, first of all, to vacate 2 feet of the 10-foot public easement located along the west boundary of Lot 2 in the Fremont Subdivision. Tammy Adolot. Tammy, how are you?
I'm doing well, Commissioners. How are you?
Good, good. Go ahead.
I will draw your attention to the applicant name in there. It should be actually Cole Schiffelbein is the applicant for this. The
Okay.
applicant is looking to install an accessory structure within that public utility easement. Engineering agrees that that would be reasonable to vacate those 24 inches. We have reached out to the utility companies and received no objection to this request to vacate by ordinance. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions, Commissioners? Yeah, well, I didn't see any big deal here.
Makes
either.
sense.
Yeah, if I was them and wanted to do the same thing, I'd be doing the same thing. All right, I'm ready for a motion. Whoa, hold on, not on that. We'll go to the second
Go to the
item.
second.
Thanks, Tammy. Second item in our public hearing is to consider possible actions on a rezone of approximately 5 acres on the south side of an intersection of Old Snow Basin Road and Highway 39 from CRV1 to CV2 zone to the from that to the FR3 zone, together with a development agreement to restrict the number of dwelling units and short-term rentals on 947 East Snow Basin Road. Mr. Charlie Ewart.
Good morning, Commissioners. Let me get this queued up.
This is one of those deals that's caused some of that grain or gray to come in your.
It's tonight's meeting a little bit more so, but out in western Weber. But happy to appear a little more mature. A little earlier in my career, people didn't want to take me seriously because I looked too young. So maybe a little more salt and pepper will go a long way. You guys have seen this item before. I'm trying to get it called up on your Zoom meeting.
Many times.
And about half a year ago, you guys passed an approval of the Basin rezone, which was rezoning the property from CVR1 to the FR3 zone, as you mentioned. As a part of that, you wanted to see a development agreement with the developer to restrict short-term rentals. Because we can't compel someone into a development agreement, they've got to agree. We worked with the owner, and for a little while, the owner wasn't quite sure if they wanted to go into that development agreement. So in the meantime, the zone didn't formally change. The developer has worked things out internally, and they're willing to sign a development agreement that says that they won't do short-term rentals and that the property is restricted to no more than 13 single-family dwellings. So you'll see that in your packet. Share the screen here so you could see. So a couple things to note. The applicant's property is the property outlined in red. The property across the street is Snow Basin property. We did have early conversations with Snow Basin owners about rezoning this property to the FR3 zone as well, and they're happy to do so. This property is currently zoned CV2, Commercial Valley 2, and this property is the CVR1 as it is across the street. Should be noted that this is in a village area as shown on the Ogden Valley General Plan, so the intent of the general plan is to create some kind of a village node here, but in working with the landowners of the area, it seems pretty clear that they don't want to see any more commercial growth in this area. In fact, it seems pretty clear they don't want to see growth in general. And so instead of going with a village zone recommendation, we're just recommending to go to the FR3, which is residential. It's a higher density residential, but again, the developer is limiting themselves to that number of dwelling units. Development agreement is attached, so you can see what that looks like. The rezone ordinance is attached. If you guys do want to approve this, the rezone ordinance is an ordinance, and then the development agreement is just a contract. So that's this item. Any questions for me on that?
Questions, commissioners, on this? We've been through this multiple times.
Not for me.
Commissioner Harvey, anything?
No questions.
All right, thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
So the next one is a public hearing to hear and consider possible actions on the adoption of a form-based village zone, FBV, to govern the creation of the village nodes depicted on the Ogden Valley General Plan. Go ahead, Charlie. I suspect this will interest the same people that are here for the other one.
I think so. So there we go. The Planning Commission, as well, staff in the Planning Commission have been working for quite some time to create a village zone that will implement the villages that I just mentioned in the Ogden Valley General Plan. The plan for the Ogden Valley since 2016 and actually well before that is to try and swallow up as much development that's planned for the valley floor and the hillsides and concentrate it into these village areas. And so the ideal of the plan itself is to create no new density, so no new residential density units, but other than what's already entitled through zoning. And so just imagine a future where all the properties on all the valley floor and the hillsides are one dwelling unit per 3 acres. The goal of the plan is to allow or enable people to go and negotiate with those landowners to essentially purchase those development rights as if it's a water right and move it from those properties and cluster it together into these village areas. So that's the ideal. We have to create a village area in order for that transfer to be able to occur. So in essence, we're taking our first step towards a TDR implementation program. So that's the residential side of this. The commercial side of this is to actually take those commercial or those village areas in the general plan and create a design theme to go with those village areas. We've all been in commercial or village areas that just aren't well planned or aren't well designed, and they just don't provide the kind of synergy that I think would be needed in this kind of an environment where you don't have in the Eaton area, Old Town Eaton area, any kind of anchor or local draw. It'd be a challenge to really get people to come and spend money in those areas as opposed to going somewhere else in the valley. One of the benefits economically is that the valley itself is a draw, and so that by itself might be enough to get some of these village areas, make them commercially viable. So I've got a little presentation. Mr. Chairman or other members of the commission, please stop me if you've already seen this and I'm boring you, but I'm going to go through really quickly. So these are some of the village areas at least on the north side of the lake: Eden, Nordic, Liberty, Wolf Creek is that other one unnamed. Old Town Eden currently have the general store there, so we worked with business owners, created essentially a steering committee for this with business owners and landowners in Old Town Eden to come up with ideas of how Old Town and Newtown Eden could be designed in a way that will help the community grow.
Just too much going on.
For you who are online, would you mute yourself? You're interrupting the meeting. Okay, go ahead.
Great. So some street designs and some building designs that will allow these villages to occur. So public streets, so street design obviously is important. Public spaces, outdoor dining opportunities, street facades, signage, furniture in the street spaces. So lighting would need to be dark sky compliant with the Ogden Valley Plan, benches, that sort of thing. These are all the things that we're trying to help create a market for landowners to essentially install and create a vibrant, viable community in which developers want to come there and bring density units off of the hillside into those locations. So just really briefly, how could that look? Old Town Eden, you're seeing it here. Well, let's put up some new blacktop on there. It looks a little nicer. And then throw a few buildings up there against the right-of-way. As you work on your right-of-way, in widening it, you provide your pedestrian pathway on the park side, accentuate the canal feature with a water feature, provide pedestrian accessibility and connectivity to and through the village, nice wide sidewalks, street furniture, obviously got to throw some people in there, patronize the businesses, some street parking, night sky lighting. You've got separated bike lanes just through the village areas, outdoor dining, and street trees. And that is what could potentially occur if we are careful in creating these village areas.
Charlie, not a drawbridge so the paddleboarders can go by there.
Perfect. Paddleboard right down the canals. I like it. If we could do a paddleboard right down the canals and connect it to the lake,
Yeah,
just bring them right from the lake to the restaurant and back down again, they'll never even need to get in a car. Great. So one of the things I wanted to mention of concern that our county engineer had was when it comes to street trees, we want to be very cautious. Street trees can create infrastructure challenge. I wanted to make sure from the commission perspective and from a policy perspective, I mean, it's costly, but in my opinion, it's worth it. It just means that in the future, we'll have to have some kind of a funding mechanism and know what that mechanism is before we start planting these trees. So the other side of it is there are good planting methods for street trees. You're never going to stop roots from growing, and in some cases 20, 30, 50 years down the road taking over infrastructure, but we could plant in a way where that minimizes the effect. In talking about street trees with our engineering division, who they all have some concerns about them. I just mentioned inner city Ogden. I mean, just walking up the street here, if you took all the trees away in inner city Ogden, what would you see? Would you want to be walking around in those sidewalks around in those neighborhoods? And it kind of shifts the perspective or the opinion when you have street trees that block out some of the more blighted areas of downtown Ogden. And so trees can do a lot to create the vibrancy of a community. Let's see, there's another perspective. This is with buildings on both sides of the road. Now, one thing that's important to note, we aren't telling people how to build their buildings or what their buildings need to look like. We are providing, however, some architectural guides. So we're saying in the Old Town Eden area, it's Old West Mine Town, something that you might see building architecture reflective of 1880s to 1910s through the Industrial Revolution timeframe. That time frame was also the same time frame that the City Beautiful movement was happening, and so you saw a lot more attractive buildings going in. And then in the Newtown area, we're looking at agrarian architecture. So we're not saying this is what you have to build, but we are saying here are some influences we would like you to follow, and I'll show you some of those influences as well. In the Old Town Eden, this is what your current zoning is. We've already got some commercial zoning there. After we adopt the form-based village zone, my recommendation to you guys will be either A, we go ahead and we change all the properties that are currently zoned CV2 to the form-based village zone. We'd have to do that through a different meeting and a different motion if you're comfortable doing so. But we'd have to hold a public hearing before doing so. Or B, you leave the CV2 zones alone and wait for the landowners to volunteer to change it themselves. I'm hoping the market will facilitate voluntary change. But if it doesn't, you could potentially see a used car lot going on one of these corners, potentially interrupting the viability of the plan itself. And then we'd have to wait that use out before the plan can be implemented on that corner. One of the key components to a form-based code is a street regulating plan. Something that our current zoning does. Our current zoning is Euclidean zoning. You see a map and all the properties are a certain color or a certain shade. And that color or shade says you could do these things. You could have these uses on that property. But for the most part, it doesn't have a design component or a design theme. A street regulating plan flips that and says, we don't care so much about what happens behind your facade inside of your building. We care what that building facade looks like and how it frames the public way. It kind of looks at the public interest versus the private interest and says, all right, the private side is on the inside of the building or on the other side of the facade. The public side is what's in that public realm, and we care about what the public interacts with and sees. What's behind that isn't as big of a deal. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't regulate what goes on those properties. If you've got, for example, a nightclub with loud music, if they want to locate there, we could still regulate time, place, manner, noise, nuisances, stuff like that. But it allows for a large range of mixture of uses, including residences, all to be congregated together, while focusing on what the public sees and what the public experiences, as opposed to what a private property owner can and can't do. Okay. I think it's a little more, even though it provides more guidance or regulations on the appearance of buildings, it's a little more property owner and property user friendly. Here's an idea of a street right-of-way. This is the 100-foot wide right-of-way. We're actually recommending a little bit wider than that to facilitate all the street uses, especially on the road that is the highway that goes through Old Town Eaton. It's the only way through that town right now, and so we want to make sure it's a little bit more thoroughfare friendly. Street regulating plan, as you can see on this, we color the streets the color, not necessarily the properties the color. So the shaded area, or excuse me, you can see the street lines in solid color is part of that street regulating plan. So again, all this information that I put together in that's all from a slideshow that went into creating this plan. The street regulating plan that
Yeah, we've seen this before, right?
Okay. Yeah. Are you good? I can.
Well, have you seen everything you want?
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're making a fair representation to the public who's here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were concerned about time.
Well,
yes.
I am a little, but you can move it right along.
I'm about wrapped up here. This is something that the Planning Commission has vetted. This is something that you guys have already seen. The Planning Commission saw a different version of the ordinance than what you guys are seeing here. We worked to make the version that you guys are seeing a little bit more true to form-based ordinances, form-based zoning. The outcome and the objectives are still the same, and they're still the same as everything that you see input here. Here's the Eden area plan as a whole. You can see the black line around that is the Newtown Eden area. And it's just a close-up of what it looks like. Orange being multifamily, red being mixed-use commercial, that kind of purple magenta color being vehicle-oriented commercial, and then the blue color here being institutional or governmental. So it's schools or maybe a future city center there. When we say multifamily, that is purely transferred in from elsewhere. So it's not creating new multifamily. They can't create multifamily there unless they transfer from other property.
So the blue, when you say governmental use, man, that's 4 blocks.
It is.
Is that much?
Well, we don't necessarily.
5.
So that road right there, I think it doesn't exist now. It's going to be a long time before it exists. And I think at the time that it does exist, I think we're going to see a few things that will need to occur here. Yep. So it may be too much. If you look in the regulating plan itself, in those blue areas, in those government areas, commercial operations are still allowed, as is multifamily housing.
Okay.
This is just kind of if we as the county or if a future city of Eaton or Ogden Valley town, whatever they want to incorporate into, if they want to see something in the future right here, that's where they see their city center.
All right.
Maybe their future park or multimodal transit or transportation facility would be there. And then here's Old Town. So you can see here's the Old Town Park right here. This one takes just a little bit of a different look. So there is no street-oriented commercial in here. Street-oriented commercial is something you have to drive to. It's your drive-through restaurant, it's your grocery stores, it's your big parking lots, stuff like that. The mixed-use commercial, that is your street front commercial retail or museum or information center or restaurant and so forth, with your second-story office space or residential. Again, at the choice of the landowner. The only thing that we would require here is something that is street-facing and retail-oriented. As you kind of get out in the periphery, that orange again is the multifamily. And then a little bit further out, the kind of gold color would be small lot single family, and then medium lot single family, large lot single family, and then rural residential on the far outside. And so we're trying to provide as least impact to people who currently live here, while also giving them options for up development in the future. Again, that's only, let me make sure I reiterate this for anyone in the Ogden Valley, it's only after people have transferred residences here. Okay, just a close-up of that commercial area.
Well, it says there, are you seeing the same things up on screen? That is what we're seeing.
Nope, that's not it, sorry.
Is your computer kind of
Frozen up.
frozen up, Charlie?
There we go.
There you
There we
go.
go.
Sorry, let me try showing you that again.
One says thank you for doing that.
Sorry, folks. I was sharing a window and not the screen itself. Let's see, screen. A little bit of a lag there. Okay, let's try again.
There you go.
Okay, Newtown, Eaton area. So again, you're still looking at quite a bit of commercial, or excuse me, quite a good bit of government property there. Maybe a little bit less than you were seeing before, though.
Right.
And then there's Old Town.
Mm-hmm.
Exterior, on your bigger streets, you'll see that's where your street-oriented retail commercial space will be, with either office space or residential above. Internal, I don't see this happening right away, but internal will likely be parking areas for all of this. However, in the future, when it makes more financial sense to put multifamily in there, when I say more financial sense, they're going to have to do something with their parking, and at $20,000 per stall to bury it, that's going to require quite a bit of an economic investment. So I think it'll be long-term in the future. You could put multifamily in the middle as long as you bury that parking. Okay, that's it. Sorry
Great.
about that.
Questions, commissioners?
No, just assumption that you can bury the parking with the water table.
Good assumption, yes, yep.
Commissioner Farrar?
Yeah, just a comment if I might, Mr. Chair. So a couple of clarifications. Number one, this is not a new concept. This has been talked about for
Since 2018, well, since 2016 when the plan was
2016.
created.
This is actually called for in the general plan, so this is not something that was created here. This was something that was created by those members of the public that weighed in on the general plan.
That's right.
I'm in support of this for a couple reasons. Nonetheless, even though sometimes I would like the valley to go back to where I grew up in it 60 years ago, that's probably not going to happen. But we better be planning for the future for my grandkids and great-grandkids that are there 50 or 60 years from now. So this is a good plan. First off, it allows us to take density off of the valley floor, maybe the mountains, and put that in areas where hopefully we'll have infrastructure at some point in the future. So that benefits open space, it benefits infrastructure. As we all know, good infrastructure bodes well for good development. bad infrastructure creates, in some cases, bad development. Infrastructure is what the valley needs. This gives us an opportunity to focus on those areas where density, unless we're prepared to go back 60 years, which I don't think we are, we need to be prepared for some type of density and locate that density where it makes sense.
That's right.
So I'm in support of this. I think that as we go forward, this is not going to be something that happens overnight. But as we go forward, we need to look to other areas in the valley along transportation corridors, along our resort developments, because that's where the traffic and that's where the basically public has dictated they want to be. So I think this is forward thinking. As much as I don't see this happening overnight or anytime soon, it's good planning, and I applaud the Planning Commission and actually the people that put this together several years ago. And it, as you said, Charlie, this could jumpstart some type of TDR activity in the valley, which I think everybody would, not everybody, but certain people would like to see that density from 3-acre lots that take up a lot of resources, including water, septic tank use that we've talked about before, and puts that in a good location. So I support. That's my commentary, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Well, and by the studies we've had done in the last year, we know that nitrates in the dam are becoming a big issue, little by little, and this will help solve that issue.
You know, Commissioners, one thing that I actually teased out of some of the information going into tonight's meeting in Western WEBER, working on their general plan, is that given the roads budget over the last couple of years, 190 miles of paved road in the unincorporated areas of Weber County. Given that if you just divide that by the roads budget, you're looking at $3.22 per linear foot of street. $3.22 per linear foot. A 3-acre lot, if it is perfectly configured to 150 feet wide and very deep, that's what our minimum zoning requirement is, 150 foot width, a 3-acre lot tax revenue on average pulls out about $1.05 per foot. Now that's just streets alone. So if you're just looking at the width of a lot and the number of feet that go into a street.
So that's the annual revenue we get versus the annual expense.
That's the annual revenue that goes into the municipal services fund versus the expense of just the street. That doesn't count any of the other municipal services. So it's already a deficit of 2/3. And so the more you could put in, as I did a calculation of large lot all the way down to some of the smaller lots in multifamily, residential, you only start getting a gain after you got stacked multifamily. And that's, I'm not suggesting that we do that everywhere, but you're not going to ever get into the positive when it comes to street infrastructure operations and maintenance until we get some more dense areas with commercial opportunities.
Very good. Commissioner Harvey, any questions?
Those are some interesting numbers.
Yeah, they are interesting, aren't they? Very good. Well, I'm ready to go to public comment if you two don't oppose that.
I'm ready for it.
Very good. So we're going to start first of all with the Fremont Subdivision easement. Is there anybody here that's come to speak to that Fremont Subdivision easement? The easement we want to do away with, vacate. Well, that's a hot topic. Is there anybody online that would like to comment to that? Okay. Secondly, because I don't think there'll be any comment on this, I'm going to go to the third item, which is item G4. Is there anybody who would like to comment on the form-based village zone that has just been presented to us?
This is Trina White.
Trina.
Watching on Zoom.
Yes.
Hello.
Would you go ahead and speak, please?
Yes, I typed in a question about this changing the zoning. You're considering this CV2 on the farm-based village zone, correct? Up on the old Snow Basin Road?
No, ma'am. You're on the wrong item.
No.
Right now we've skipped that one and went to the form-based village zone in Eaton.
Okay, I did have a question on the Snow Basin Road because of the tobacco alcohol sales at any and all buildings that would be built there, that I guess it's going to get skipped.
Hold on a second, hold on a second. We will come back to you on that, okay? You're out of order
Okay,
right
as
now.
far as the farm-based village zone.
We'll come back to
and
you. So do you have anything on the Eden plan?
Yeah, water. You've talked about roads, you've talked about infrastructure, you've talked about parking, which I guess you don't want cars on the road. I'm not sure why you would worry about parking when you're not considering how these places are going to get their drinking water.
Well, today we have considered that, and there is water available in the area to serve these folks.
That dense a population, you've got water for that.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Can I ask how you have the water for that?
Well, it's served by Weber Basin, and they have the rights to either drill wells or we're having a master study done on that right now to see if we can consolidate the way that is served.
Yeah, I spoke with one of their representatives last week after your business meeting, and they do not have any reservoirs up here and are not drilling any more wells, which would have to be drilled east of the valley.
I'm on that board, and we have not announced any moratorium on wells up there right now. So that's not true. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay. All right. Does that end your comment?
For now, yeah.
Okay, others who would care to comment on that? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to reinforce what she's saying. I'm very concerned about water supply.
You need to come up to the mic if you're going to comment. The reason we have you come up to the mic is so everybody can hear and we can get you on record. So just state your name, please.
Good morning, by the way, and thank you for your service.
Yeah.
My name's Tom Quinn. I am an owner builder up on Snow Basin Road.
Great.
And I think we need to be looking forward, and this is the first time I've heard about this, but I very much am concerned about water. So as far as that item goes, I would just reinforce what she's saying. And I have, I've poked around online trying to find out how they do these calculations, but if they're wrong, boy, it's going to be a mess.
Thank you, sir.
I would just leave it at that.
We
Thanks.
appreciate that. Others? All right, we're going to call an end then to item G4, and we're going to go to item G3, which is the public hearing for the rezone on approximately 5 acres on the south side of the intersection of Old Snow Base Road and Highway 39 from a CVR1 and CV2 to an FR3. This includes a development agreement on the dwellings and short-term rental agreement with it to not have short-term rentals. So to that, this is now open. Trina, you're online. We're going to go back to you. Would you like to, this is what you wanted to comment. Would you like to comment on this?
Yes. Yes, and as I had written in my question, what about that? Are any alcohol or tobacco sales going to be allowed anywhere on that property that's getting rezoned?
Anything else?
Is the water coming from the Huntsville water system that is the Huntsville town drinking water? Those places have been already annexed over in that area, but I don't know about that specific lot.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Very good, thank you. We'll have that answered. Anybody else would care to comment? Yes, sir. Please come back.
Again, my name's Tom Quinn, and respectfully.
Sorry to make you say that again, Tom.
Yeah, no problem. Respectfully, I object. I want to go on the record and object to even calling this as CV2. I think there was an agreement in 2008, and in my background, I've been living up in the valley off and on since 2013, so I've seen everything built up there. It seems like there was a mistake, and I know these things happen, but it's FV3, which is what my lot is, and I think it should be reverted back to that. I don't know why it never was. And the only other thing that I would say is going through these different documents, and when the zone changing was considered, all of those condominiums that are still being built directly across the street were not there. And so the way I look at this is, look at the perimeter of Pine View and then add about 1,000 feet all the way around. Probably 85% of the residences are right there. And I know because I've biked around that thing so many times, it's 18 miles. I just, again, with the utmost respect, I just don't want to see a problem. I don't want to ignore a problem that I think is coming. So that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time.
You bet. We appreciate you coming, spending your time. Others? Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
Say
appreciate
your
it.
name.
My name's James Byrd. I live in Huntsville, Utah. I request you either deny or table the proposed ordinance to rezone these two properties for 3 reasons. The first reason to deny is because CW Basin is requesting property owned by Snow Basin to be rezoned from a CV2 to an FR3 without any declaration of the reason for the rezone. There is no evidence of a description of what they want to build. In fact, they don't even own the land. This is a dangerous precedent that a speculator can request a zoning change without disclosing to the community or the county what they plan to build. Why do they want this zoning change? Why isn't this transparent? The second reason is to deny the zoning change is the Ogden Valley General Plan states that area is deemed a village. And boy, we're probably like a village like you're talking about on Eaton. I've been informed the county does not have a definition of village. If you remove the CV2 zoning on a Snow Basin property, then you reduce the possibility of any commerce that could provide services to the multiple condominiums, homes that you have allowed to be built in this village area. Essentially, if you allow this zoning to become F3, the definition of a village would be a cluster of high-priced housing developments, 2 of which are gated. What is the county's definition of a village? Does a village include commerce? Why would you go against the Ogden Valley General Plan? And Charlie said the property owners didn't want a village. I don't know any property owner that has said that, unless they own literally the property that CW Land is talking about. The third reason is to not give up your control over the property that as you're describing as CVR1 and Mr. Quinn was discussing about. As you know, the last zoning agreement, which occurred in 2008 between Amsterdam Capital and the county, gave you the control to keep this parcel residential, FV3. In the last Monday's meeting, you were told you had a choice between CVR1 and FV3. In addition, there are 2 previous zoning agreements, one in 2000 and one in 2003, between the county and various petitioners that state the same requirements. If the specific petitioner does not complete the project, it reverts to residential, FV3. That is the precedent. Past Weber County commissioners gave you the control to decide what is best for that corner lot, not developers. All 3 of these documents are disclosed in a July 20th title search completed by Commonwealth Land Title. Apparently, this title search was requested by the previous owner. That means that CW Land had access to it. I request you keep this control because the planning department has frequently stated a CVR1 zone would allow worse developments, such as gas stations, 20 development. Their suggestion is the commissioner should approve the change to FR3 because it would be worse for the community. However, since the zone should be residential, the developer should be willing to build fewer and smaller dwellings, or they are stuck with a piece of property that they can build only one house on. If you keep the FV3, you decide what is best for the valley in terms of affordable housing, so your grandchildren can afford a place, water usage, traffic patterns and with the Ogden General Valley Plan, not the developer. I'm going to submit these 4 documents, who do you want, so you have access to it in there. These are the zoning agreements and the title. Who would I give this to?
You can bring them right up here and set them right on this edge. Thank you, Mr. Byrd. We appreciate it. You've been a gentleman through this whole thing, and we appreciate it. Others who've come to comment on this. Normally, we give you 3 minutes in this case. I didn't really limit you to that but if you get all carried away, we're going to have to. So
fair enough. I've been practicing. So my name is Kevin Irwin. I live in Huntsville.
Kevin, go ahead.
So you've heard many different, and you've received in your email, messages from many of the residents that are concerned about this. One, I'd like to refute what Charlie observed, that we are against growth. We are not against growth. We want growth that makes logical sense so that 60 years from now, we have a facility that looks great, a place to live that we all want to live in, including our kids and grandkids, and doesn't look like a density of Park City. So my concern is with granting FR3 to this property. FR3, as defined in the code, is a medium-density residential use of apartments and condotels adjacent to and in conjunction with major recreational facilities. It's medium-density multifamily homes, integral and normal as part of a recreational resort complex that serves the needs of both tourists and permanent homeowners. And then the last line, just to make sure it's clear, this zone is intended to be used in mountain locations associated with major recreational resorts. That's not what this is. If you look at what's bordering these properties, it's an FV3 subdivision, 2 gated communities, and a church. So definitely no recreation. Now, if you go through and you take a look at where we have FR3 within Ogden, there's 10 zones that are FR3 zones. 3 of the zones are adjacent to Nordic Valley. 2 of the zones are adjacent directly to Powder Mountain. And then the other 5 zones are adjacent directly to the fairways on Wolf Creek Pass or Wolf Creek Golf Course. They're literally on the fairways. You go away from those fairways, you're now in residential zoning. This proper zoning, because the zoning agreement says this is a residential subdivision, it is single-family homes, nor short-term rentals, it has nothing to do with a major recreational resort, should be zoned residential. Why it's being zoned FR3 is my only guess is to go and hit certain levels of density in the community and to maximize the profit for the developers. So from that standpoint, we, the residents, are not against growth. We want growth that's logical and makes sense and will help build the community not just next year, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Others who've come. The developer.
Todd Myers with CW Land, Centerville, Utah. We've had this item has come before you multiple times, mainly during the summer. At the last meeting, I believe it was on July 20th, there was a motion that passed 3-0. And the motion was to rezone the property from CVR1 to FR3, and that would take effect when a development agreement was presented and executed. And so that is what we are doing today. We have presented the development agreement. It's been reviewed by planning. It's been reviewed by the county attorney's office. It expressly prohibits the short-term rentals. So that complies with that motion that was approved. We also added one more thing to it, and that was to reduce the density to 13 dwellings. Within the existing zone and the proposed FR3, you could have 60 units if you had the utilities for it. We've taken away that option with this development agreement. As far as what is the recreation facility in the area? Pine View, skiing, kayaking, you name it, snowboarding, snowmobiles, whatever you want, the Upper Valley has for you for outdoor recreation. There was a comment that was made on, well, why are they rezoning the property across the street? What are they trying to do here? That wasn't part of our application. The staff, when they looked at our application, they seen this property sitting over there that was CVR2. They asked the property owner if it could run with this application. We are fine either way. If you'd like to remove that portion off of this action, we're happy with that. Any questions?
See none. Thank you. Others who've come to comment to this? Anybody online? Mrs. Skeen? See none? All right.
I have some comments online.
Yes. Who are you? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Glade McCombs, and let me just start my video so you can see my face. But this is Glade McCombs, and I'm a resident in Huntsville. And what I would like to say is the Ogden Valley Master Land Use Plan dictates that this area of this development be designated as a village area. I love Charlie's earlier comments about a village area, and I don't know any resident in our subdivision who would object to having that location be a village area as Charlie is dictating. With the growth in this area, it would be wonderful to have a development that follows the intention of the village concept. Walkable and bikeable small retail shops that would serve the residents and add to the community, instead of a project like the one being proposed that will significantly detract from any type of village feel. The proposed rezoning would only add to the already crowded nature of the intersection, also placing a strain on sensitive water availability and placing a higher demand on sewage processing. With the design of the proposed buildings, there is no doubt that the developer is selling these homes to people who will proceed with short-term rentals, even though they say in their documents they won't. Nobody's going to police that. Who would buy a residence with this high number of bathrooms and bedrooms with no usable land except for the purpose of doing short-term rentals? In no way does this rezoning proposal comply with the master land use plan of the area. The land use plan was designed to complement the community, not add bloated residential buildings with medium density, aimed at bringing additional traffic and encouraging overnight rentals to an already busy intersection. The Commission has a sacred trust to listen to and hear the concerns of local residents. They're not elected to provide approval to the motivated monetary appeals of a developer whose business model is to build high-density housing. Over a series of meetings, not one resident has voiced approval or encouragement for this type of development. After all the concerns that have been voiced, it is high time that the Commission give ear to the concerned residents who will be mostly impacted by this rezoning proposal. It is also incumbent upon the Commission to adhere to the master plan for this area and seek for a village-type development that would be complementary and consistent with the intended land use plan. As the Commissioner stated earlier, we should encourage village areas and define these locations. Well, this area has already been defined and designated as a village area. Shouldn't we keep this area as the public dictated and keep it zoned for village purposes? I implore the Commission to deny this rezone. Instead of approving this rezone, which does not comply with the land use plan, the Commission needs to properly define the village concept with adequate input from the residents and then proceed only with a project that would fit within those defined guidelines. You should not vacate the planned use for this area. I would ask, is it the intention of the Commission to adhere to the land use master plan or turn their backs on the residents who they are bound to serve?
Thank you very much. Glade, we appreciate your comments. Others? Gwendolyn, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and everybody's comments today. And I appreciate the work that everybody's been trying to do together to come to something that is agreeable. When we look at land use and zoning, there are three main stakeholders that really have needs that need to be met. Of course, the property owner, they have rights. CW property has rights. The county, and also the community. And it's important that all three of these stakeholders' needs are met. As we have heard repeatedly, the community does not support nor is interested in this rezoning in this purpose. It does not serve the community. It may serve the property owners, it may serve the government, but it is not serving us. We actually need amenities so that we don't need to drive 15 minutes to go get milk, right? So a little bit of a village is absolutely welcome in this area. A lot of the problems that we have expressed all revolve around water, traffic, safety, and all of these can be resolved based on the fact that this occurs from high density. 13 homes that have 8 bedrooms each, that is high density in a 3-acre area. If we're able to reduce that density even to residential that is more medium density or low density, something affordable, the community can support that as well. We are trying to be very flexible. We're trying to be very understanding, meet the needs of property owners and the county, but we're asking that our needs also be heard, that this not be designated for high density, but something that will actually serve the area and the residents that are there. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. We appreciate you. Others? Any others online? That's it. Very good, then. I need a motion to close this public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene as a public meeting.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We're done with the public hearing. We're now back on our regular meeting. So there was a question asked in that whole thing, Charlie, and I think one of them was alcohol and tobacco will allow to be sold, and where's the water planned on being serviced from?
Great. Let me hit water first. Water seemed like a concern for both the village areas as well as the Basin rezone. We do have a water study from the Utah Geological Survey. We spent quite a bit of money on that water study. The county put in money, the city of Ogden put in money, the Division of Drinking Water and the Division of Water Rights all put in money to pay for this study. And the study came back with results suggesting that we've got more water than we have anything planned for. So basically, at final build out, we've got enough water for that.
Through wells?
Through groundwater, yes.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of accessing that water. And so where those wells are located and the creation of a municipal service would be essential in providing enough water. We know that there are a couple of water companies this last year that have done a moratorium on access to water on any kind of new connections. Weber Basin, I'm not aware of them doing one, but we know that Wolf Creek and Liberty culinary water entities have done that. And that's because of where their wells are located. We do know that there are a few wells in the Ogden Valley that actually provide a ton of water, disproportionate amount of water. Somehow they tapped into that main vein of groundwater, but not all wells yield that amount of water. As far as the basin goes, the answer to that is easy. It's not going to be the answer that most people want, but the owner has worked with the water provider and the sewer provider to get will-serve letters for residential dwellings. And so as far as the county is concerned, because we don't govern that water or the use of that water, we just look for the will-serve. The other side of water is if it turns out there's not enough water, they don't get a building permit. So it's as easy as that. So then the development doesn't happen. So both in terms of these villages as well as this basin future subdivision, if there's not enough water, those buildings or that village or the basin won't actually be developed. So as far as tobacco and alcohol goes, it's a residential zone, no commercial uses. So unless they're selling out of their garage, it's not going to happen.
Right. Very good.
Thanks, Charlie. Any other questions?
I have a question for you. So the basin development there, we have approved it in theory. In the we're just waiting to see the development agreement, right?
That's right.
And you're not presenting that to us today, are you?
Yeah, development agreement is attached,
Okay.
as well as the ordinance to adopt the zone and the
Okay,
development.
so that's what we've seen then to this
Mhm.
point.
That's
Very
right.
good. Very good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Very good. All right, with that case, I'm open for motions.
Before we make a motion, I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. For sure.
I've taken some time to read some of the emails from the people who are concerned from in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but also I've reacquainted myself with the project from 7-8 months ago.
So you're talking about G3 now?
You're talking about G3?
Sorry.
G2?
I'm sorry. I'm on G3.
That's okay.
I'm overwhelmed with that right now.
Yeah, we can address it first.
Are you okay? Because I'll
Yeah.
back off. if
No,
not.
no, any way you want to do it.
I'm talking about G3 right now.
Right.
The concern, I've listened and I was impressed with a couple of comments. From before, there's a big concern about short-term rentals. I've heard comments with regards to families in a lot of bedrooms and a high percentage of homes up in the valley now are second residences. It's and it would be a good second residence with what's being proposed. Some of the recent emails have talked about they'd like to go back to a FV3, which means that the property would only have one home on it, like some of the others there.
FR3?
No, the emails are asking us to put that back to an FV3.
FV3, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
And so I'm not there. If I listen to the comments of today that were presented to us, they want a commercial node like was presented in the G4 presentation that Charlie gave. I see some head nodding, and I'm a little confused on this. I need a little more time to kind of settle, but I was impressed, I'll say publicly, that the petitioner came back and said, hey, look, we're not going to do short-term rentals. We'll do exactly what was asked from 7 months ago. And I thought, well, that works out pretty good, but then if he left the zoning the way it is now, currently, then they could do commercial zoning plus a whole bunch of short-term rentals on top. So some of the things, but they don't want short-term rentals. I guess what I'm saying is I'm a little, the message that's been sent over the period of the last 7 or 8 months is by, you know, it's confusing. I appreciate, like Mr. McCombs, what we need to do and telling us how we have to do or should do and our obligations. I'm well aware of that. I appreciate the reminder. The balance is, though, too, and I was really impressed with Gwendolyn's comments where it appears that she had the interest of everybody has rights, and that's also correct. I appreciate when people have, when people care about, you know, the other side as well. I think some of the ones we heard from Mr. Quinn, he's been in business because he had rights as a builder to do certain things, and I probably, for me, on that particular issue, I'd like to just have just a little more time I just need to absorb that a little more, think about that a little longer. That'll be my comments on that. Charlie, if I can, I'll just go, I appreciate your work that you've done on those form-based codes. This represented a few minutes of hundreds of hours that has been spent, not just by you, Mr. Grover, you and your staff. I appreciate what you're trying to do, and you're trying to do so responsibly. I hope that people will champion those who have really studied, those who have really gotten into it, understand that we're not just making blind guesses here. We absolutely are spending, in my mind, honestly, a disproportionate amount of time as it relates to all the other citizenry in the county on that upper valley with sewer and water to protect the water source. We spend a lot more time than people know, and that's our error for not communicating. But thousands of hours have been spent on water studies and sewer studies to make sure that the grandchildren of our grandchildren have adequate resources moving forward. And so that's a big concern, and it will continue to move forward. It's, in my mind, in the time that I spent, I've never given them more attention to care. So I apologize in advance that we haven't communicated that better. But that too, as you've pointed out, Mr. Byrd, you're so good at your research. But that's so available online. All of those studies are available online, but they're not the concern of that corner right now, like it is everywhere else. And eventually, people, as they educate themselves and as we do a better job communicating, they'll understand the bigger picture of the whole valley, because the whole valley drains into Pineview, not just a corner and not just a subdivision. So we're looking at it in a much broader sense for the broader well-being of the population up that. And so those are my comments. And there's really not a lot on G2. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Comments, Commissioner Farrar?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion on G3 with some comments, if that would be okay.
That'd be great.
So I appreciate Commissioner Harvey's comments. As I said before, I've been driving by that piece of property since about 1952, some form or the other. And I remember when that was some of the best hay crops in the valley on either side. That was part of the Theodore Jensen farm, along with some of my other past relatives that actually had control of a good share of that hillside. Well, it's not that way today. And it never will be, as much as some of us would like to see that go back. At the same time, at some point in recent history, there was a proposal by the landowner to put a hotel there, as I recall, and that was a request to do the CVR1 or CV2. I don't believe, at least in my real estate brain, that ever made sense for a hotel. And the commercial aspect of that now, because of the residents around it and the roads, I think there's better locations in the valley for commercial development. So I don't see this, and because of, at that point in time, back in the 60s and early 70s, that was the main road to Snow Basin. Well, we know that that's no longer the main route that people take to access Snow Basin. That changes really the future use of that property. At that point in time when it was zoned, I firmly believe that the commission at that time and the Planning Commission viewed that as a corridor to a future Snow Basin. Okay, that no longer exists. But you do have property rights established with that commercial zone. The question that I have is, goes back to some verbiage that was put in and actually recorded that revert, if the hotels weren't put in, reverts to the FV3. I have some issues with that. And I also still have some questions on the Snow Basin piece adjoining it. I've heard a couple different comments. So my motion, Mr. Chair, would be that we hold this at the current time. I think that Commissioner Harvey has some questions. I have some questions in terms of the surrounding. But I will go on record saying I don't believe that the commercial zone is a proper or needed use for the Ogden Valley right now. So my motion would be to hold until those questions are answered, maybe we have some additional comments and input from our planning staff and Valley residents.
Have a motion, Commissioner.
I'll second as long as we can make that motion a time certain.
I'm prepared to make it time certain for a week from today if that's,
It's even quicker than I thought, but that'd be fine. I'd do that. I didn't think by the end of the month, but a week from today or 2 weeks from today would be great.
well, I would say our next available spot not to exceed the end of the month.
Then I will second that with that language.
Very good. We have a motion and we have a second. So this is ordinance number 2022-03. Do you want to call that?
So are we voting to hold?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To hold, yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure it's in the minutes correctly then. Okay, roll call vote for ordinance 2022-03. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye. Very good. What about the other two? Any motions?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you're ready to accept.
I am.
We take action to vacate 2 feet of the 10-foot public easement along the western boundary of Lot 2 of the Fremont subdivision as presented by the Great Tamier Lot.
2022-02.
02.
2022-02.
02.
Very good.
And I'll second that.
And we have a second.
Okay,
Craig?
roll call vote for ordinance 2022-02. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye. That leaves number G4.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve, adopt the form-based village code, the FBV, Foxtrot Bravo. Oh, I forgot that. V. What's V for? Victor.
Victor.
Gosh, it's been too long. To govern the, huh?
2022-04.
Thank you. 2022-04, as presented today.
Second.
Greg, go ahead and call that.
Okay, roll call vote for ordinance 2022-04. Commissioner Ford?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye, and I want to comment on that while we're doing it. I really like this. The only question or concern I would have, Charlie, I want to make sure that you put the right tree in there so that they're uniform. You know, you don't want 20 different trees up and down the road, and you want a tree that's smaller. And yeah, okay, you know, go from there. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that. Very good.
What would you, sorry, I'll wait.
Oh, go ahead.
What would be the right tree?
Well, I have not done the study for the Upper Valley. I can't answer that.
You know,
You have a predetermined idea.
Plain City actually has a tree ordinance. I think it's a pretty good tree ordinance. They've already vetted what's good for their climate. If you read the text of the the ordinance tonight, it actually says it'll be of a tree species as determined for the climate and the area, location, soils as vetted by the county engineer. So we'll determine what that is in the future.
Yeah, we'd love to know that.
TBD. Thanks.
Yeah, great.
Good comment.
Great. All right, commissioners, that ends our meeting. So with that in mind, commissioner comments. Either of you care to say anything?
Not for me, thank you.
You said a lot, quite a bit now. Commissioner Harvey? Nothing?
Really?
Wow. Well, I don't really have a comment either.
Page 2.
Yeah, so with that, I need a motion.
So move, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All fair say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming today.